Silver Daisies, and today I'm going to be talking about something more education related. So, I did my honors in psychology at UWC, which is the University of the Western Cape, in 2023. Yes. Obviously, got the email that I'm accepted into the program, and I was so happy. And I was like, okay, UWC is familiar, I know I'm familiar with the teaching methods, so it won't be as big of a jump. Even though we're coming from online learning now to in person, it won't be as big of a jump as going to another university and having to sort of learn the teaching culture. Also, I thought we started off the year, I think it was like late Jan, not early Feb, late Jan. So we have a head of department, okay, and she sent us an email that before we register, right, we're going to discuss our electives, because okay, we had our prescribed modules, and then we had a bunch of electives that we could choose from, right? So she said that because we don't really know what these electives are about, she created the Zoom meeting where it was her and our lecturers for our prescribed modules and our lecturers for our possible elective modules. So I think there was personality development, and then there was community. Those were our electives, and then in the Zoom meeting it was all of us who had been accepted into honors, and then the lecturers was they were just introducing themselves. And after that we got into questions of what do you think this, like, what honors will be and so forth, and then people answering, and then they had a whole slideshow prepared, whatnot, of what is to come, what is everything about, and then each lecturer was diving into their own module and what it consists of and what we should expect. And they talked about the textbooks that we're going to need, the readings that we're going to do, and how this relates to psychology, and which type of stream or career path you can take with psychology, not career paths, plural, sorry, that you can take with psychology, and what is the different modules that are offered at UWC in the master's level. Of okay, if you want to go into masters, UWC offers clinical, and they'll offer research, and they no longer, as of now, offer counseling. We're talking about if we're ready, if we feel ready for honors, or if we don't. And it was overall a good start to the year, because you felt like, okay, they slowly pulling you in so that you're not just bamboozled by everything and all the information. So okay, we had a Google form or Google sheet that we had to fill in, and it was basically you, where you live, or if you're on res, if you're on campus, if you're staying at res, and what elective you would like. Okay, so with that Google form, Google sheet, as far as I can deduce, it was they used it because they wanted to split us, because okay, you may not know this, but for honors at any university they take 50 students, and for UWC the 50 students consist of full-time and part-time students. So part-time students, you have a lot of working class people, you have people like, for personally in my class I had a lot of people who were mothers, or who were fathers, or people who were just like working, and they were coming back to study psychology. Or I made friends with this one lady. She has a husband, she has kids, she's a scientist actually. And I was like, what, you're a scientist, and like you want to change career paths, like you want to become a psychologist? She was like, yeah, because she was doing the course on a part-time basis, so I would meet her in the evening classes, and she was just like, yeah, like when I'm in the lab, it's a very lonely kind of job. It's like just you and the lab, and I'd like to change into a career path where I'm actually interacting with people. And I think that change for her would actually be very good because she is a very lively and bubbly person. So anyways, back to the Google Sheet. After we submitted it, I think after a couple of days, they were like, okay, not everyone, because I remember the module that I got, personality development, a lot of people wanted it, and it wasn't possible to cater for everyone. And so they were like, okay, there seems that on the response with the Google Sheet, there's a lot of people who want personality development, and however, we won't be able to accommodate everyone, and so there'll be some people who will be cut off, and you will go into your second choice, because they said, what's your first choice, what's your second choice for an elective. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I really want this personality development, like it's really talking to me, I really want this module. And luckily I got it, and I received an email a couple of days later, and they were like, you selected the elective personality development, congratulations, you're going to go into the module. The class is going to be in the second semester, and it's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. So I was like, oh yes, lovely, lovely, lovely times. There are, however, people that wanted personality development and they didn't get into it. But I have a friend who that happened to, but she says that when she went into her second choice, she did enjoy it, and she's like, she didn't mind it as much when she didn't get personality development once she started learning in that module. Okay, another thing is that I noticed that a lot of us who lived near or people that had cars, or people that like me lived on res, right? We were drafted into the 5 to 7 p.m. classes, right? And people who were more like they lived further away from the university or didn't like live on campus, they were the ones who had classes from like 9 to 11. So there was some classes for us evening people where we wouldn't have classes from 5 to 7 but from 2 to 4, but that was once in the week. Okay, so for me, take for instance, in semester one, I had three modules. I had my advanced research project, my abnormal psychology, and there was advanced quantitative research methods. So, okay, to dive in first of like what each module was basically about, advanced quantitative research methods, oh my gosh, my words. So that was both quantitative and qualitative work, and we had to work with IBM's SPSS statistics, and we had to basically input data into the program, and from there we'd have to extract it and explain it. And we did lessons in class, and then we had to do an assignment, and then there was also tests. So basically what you would do is take your laptop to the, what is it, there is a place on campus, right, that helps with technical difficulties or just like technical questions in general. And basically you have to take your laptop there and have the SPSS and Atlas TI installed onto your laptop by the technicians who work there, and they had they helped you set it up, and you logged in and whatnot. And there was I advise you, if ever you need it set up, do it as quick as you can, because the line will literally bore you. It was so hot, and it was in the height of summer, and you're waiting because you need the software for your next class. So semester one for research methods is split up into one half of it you do quantitative work, one half of it you do qualitative work, right? Qualitative, that's where Atlas TI comes in. And basically you there's these journal articles that you have to import onto the software, and then your whole assignment is about it. Besides that, we also had our advanced research project, which people also call like a mini thesis. But basically what it is um our lecturer wasn't like teaching, she was more as guiding us, because we had our supervisors allocated to us more or less towards the beginning of the semester. Our lecturer is from another college, and she has her PhD. She's very well versed in psychology, and she's also a dean. So we were quite happy because she knew literally what she was doing, especially as we got along more into the year, because this is a year-long module, right? Started in the beginning, you finish it at the end of semester 2. So yeah, she was very helpful towards us. She was very critical, which I really liked, because she would tell us the standard that you need. I'm so thankful for her for like being so critical of our work, wanting it to be like top notch, like perfect, because at I graduated my research module with an A. I was working throughout VAX, throughout whatever activities, and it was basically taken to HS Rec. Basically they are the higher ups who, before you can even start your research project, you tell them what it's about, what the title is, how you're going about your research, where you're going to extract your data from, whatever. And then they go, okay, this seems like it's a good plan, it's a good research project, we approve it, just maybe fix up a line here or there, and then you get approved. And then you your supervisor, she's the one who sends it in, right? She will receive that feedback and be like, okay, they just told us to fix this and that, and then we're sending it back, otherwise it's approved. On the other hand, you can also get rejected, and I know of a group that got rejected, right? Because I'm not sure of the specific reasons, but basically the board sent it back and they were like, you need to rework this idea, we don't think that it's going to work. Like, something about it was just not good enough for them, that they sent it back. And to explain how the dynamic of the research project works at UWC was, you get into a group, there was 5 of us, you guys say, okay, we are going with this topic of what we want to do, right? And then you guys agree on it, and you guys agree on where you see the project going. But the thing is that you're going to write your own paper individually, right? So there's 5 of you, you agree on a topic, and you all will write everything individually, like your introduction, your literature review, that will all be individual. Like, our supervisor gave us an example of how an introduction should look like, how your literature review should look like. And then she told us basically like we were writing our own individual pieces, sending it into her, and then she'd send us feedback. So each week we'd have a different thing to do, because the first week she'd tell us, okay, you need to do your introduction, and your introduction is 3 pages long. And I was like, what? I'm so used to doing an introduction that's like a paragraph long at most. And then it would be like, okay, now you must do your methodology, now you must do your literature review. And I did not know that this was the light stuff, because this was just us saying, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I've talked about how it was set up. Each of us was doing this individually, but we were just agreeing. Let's say methodology, right? We would, okay, say we're doing a scoping review, and then each of us would we'd agree as a group that, okay, our research project is a scoping review, but then as individual you'd write, okay, our research project, we're doing a scoping review, and this is what a scoping review is, and this is how we're going to do it, and whatnot. And I think it was like 3 to 6 pages that we had to do. if I'm not mistaken. And then there was also a literature review. Literature review, we had to be like, okay, what are the databases that we are agreeing upon to extract our information from? And we'd be like, okay, we're using this, we're using that, we're using that. And then be like, okay, we're agreeing to this. And then you would write in your own paper, okay, these are the databases that, okay, are agreed upon, and we're going to use this and this and this and that. And then we're going to do this and that. We also had abnormal psychology. Abnormal psychology was where you get your learning about different mental disorders, okay, learning about normal and abnormal behavior. This is where learning how to diagnose people comes in, because we would have to learn and like read the DSM, okay, that all psychologists use to diagnose patients with certain mental disorders like schizophrenia, like anxiety, like depression, everything. All the mental disorders that you've heard from come from the DSM, okay. No psychologist is just stringing stuff out of the air, and you have to meet certain criteria in the DSM to be able to be diagnosed with that mental disorder. I remember in our final exam, they gave us a case study, and they were like, okay, this person has been doing this, and then they say they feel like this, that they've been suffering from this. And it's not always as straightforward. Like, they won't just tell you, Miriam was sad. Like, it'll be like, okay, Miriam was starting to not engage with people as much. And it won't be like, oh, Miriam was experiencing auditory hallucinations. If, let's say, Miriam was one day sitting with her friends and she heard something, and the other people did not, and ever since then she's been experiencing this more often than not, then you would say, oh, okay, she's experiencing auditory hallucinations. Auditory hallucinations are a part of schizophrenia, right? And then you would write up like, okay, she needs to meet at least this and this and that. Or you would say, okay, I can't diagnose her with schizophrenia because yes, she has auditory hallucinations, but she doesn't have all these other things like ABCD, okay? Semester 2 comes rolling around, and now we're no longer going to lectures for our 701 research project, because the time that we would have gone to lectures, we are now using it to actually do our research project, right? So I had my elective then, my personality development. Personality development was okay. Obviously we talked about like the different theorists, like, okay, Sigmund Freud, Erik Erikson, Rogers, what's his first name, Carl Rogers. You have the psychosocial stages, the psychosexual stages, basically just how different theorists say like a person develops from a young age into adulthood, and even more like growing up until they're, how do they develop in life, okay? One thing about psychology that I can say, you're going to do a lot of presentations. I remember I was so swamped with presentations at one point. I had the one presentation on the Monday and the other on the Tuesday, and it was so I didn't have enough time to even think about like, okay, let me try to swap, because you're doing this with a group and they have other commitments as well, and so it's not as easy to say, okay, I can't do this on a Tuesday, can we rather move it to here, because the other group is going to say, okay, but we were happy where we were because we planned our schedules around that. I was doing a presentation for abnormal psychology, right? And I remember our presentation, we did it on PMDD in an hour's session, right? The presentation would be like 40 to 50 minutes, right? And you guys would have to talk for like all that time, and then there would be a Q&A at the end where they ask you questions or they give you feedback on like what you did, and you have to be knowledgeable enough. You can't just stand at the back of the group and just like keep quiet. Just that also counted towards the marks for your presentation. Practice your public speaking, because you're going to be doing a lot of presentations. And also what also counted for us was class participation. So if you're answering questions, if you're asking questions as well, and just like participating in general, you also get like marked up for that as well. I think it's like out of 5, and like you can get like a 2 all around if you don't really participate that well. Moving on, I also did 703. This was psychological interventions, right? And basically it was learning the different systems or methods you can put into place to, okay, somebody has been diagnosed with a certain disorder. What plan can you put in place that will effectively help that person? Okay, and we were just going through the different methods that are available for that and work for that person, even though it was a fictional case study, but something that would actually work in the real world. Like, you don't just say something just for putting an answer. Like, how will it actually effectively help the patient who's coming to you with a problem? Remember doing in-person exams, like for all our modules, doing in-person exams, it was you, your pen, and the paper, and that was it, because you can't be looking around. Like, what are you looking around for? They will literally disqualify you and you won't be able to write your paper anymore. So all the knowledge must be up here. Okay, so except for our first term in our first semester of our first year, everything was online. Okay, every like learning experience of ours was online. We never used to interact with our classmates, we never used to interact with our lecturers. Okay, so transitioning into in-person, doing presentations, and just having to overall like take on a more difficult and heavier workload was very difficult for us. So, but like, it was a learning experience because that's like what's going to happen for masters. So it was very helpful, and it is like a bridging course for masters, and I truly appreciate that. But in other words, it really broke me down, and it literally consumed me so much to the point where at times I could not sleep. Like, I would wake up during the night. Semester 1 truly almost broke me because I would wake up during the night and it's like 2 a.m. Bear in mind, I slept at like 11, and I would wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'd be like, I can't sleep. I need to work on this. I need to do my work. Like, it was so stressful.